Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. All right, I think we are live this evening for our Wednesday evening, what I have entitled our Pre-flections. Not sure exactly what that word means, but now I think we might be froze up. Are we froze? No, we're not froze. Okay. Anyway, what I've entitled our Pre-flections, which is the opposite of, I guess, of a reflection. We're not looking back on the service of Wednesday night. We're getting ready to head over to service for tonight, and just wanting to take some time to maybe anybody that's able to meet with us or talk with us, wanting to look over some things with you before we go over. And we've been dealing with the book of Ecclesiastes. Last Sunday evening, or Wednesday evening, we started chapter number 11, verses 1 through 5. And in our Bible study time, we only actually covered the first two verses. So this evening, we're going to be looking at verse 3, 4, and 5. Verse 3, 4, and 5. Let me read those with you again just to remind you of where we're at, what we're discussing. Solomon wrote, "Cast thy bread upon the waters, for thou shalt find it after many days. Give a portion to 7 and also to 8, for thou knowest not what evil shall be upon the earth. If the clouds be full of rain, they empty themselves upon the earth. And if the tree fall toward the south or toward the north, in the place where the tree falleth, there it shall be. He that observeth the wind shall not sow, and he that regardeth the clouds shall not reap." And in verse number 5 says, "As thou knowest not what is the way of the Spirit, nor how the bones do grow in the womb of her that was with child, even so thou knowest not the works of God who maketh all." And that's where we're going to be at tonight, is those last three verses. And really, it's a change of perspective by Solomon. We've watched Solomon, even though we believe him to be late in his life, much later in years, he is in this phase where he is growing. Now, whether he is writing, whether this was written over a time as writing it as he's living it, or whether he is older and maybe he or someone is writing it for him as he's dictating it. There are times, especially earlier in the book, it almost reads like that he is dictating and someone is writing for him. But then other times it seems like it's him talking. That's why it's maybe a little hard to figure or to understand at times on if it's his hand or somebody else's hand on the quill and just his voice talking. But either way, Solomon is either living or telling us about the time he lived through a great growing period in his life. And I think we all go through those. I like this because it's a reminder to us that we don't have to have it all figured out. I know for me, most of my adult life from, I guess in my early teens, really, from the time I was 18, if not before that, because of high school sports, being the FCA president when I was in high school, being a leader at the church and the youth group, actually teaching at an early age. But those times decisions weren't really laid heavy on me as they have been in later years in life. But I was already in a form of leadership, and then going right into into my early 20s or going into college baseball, being a leader there for a time, and then coaching, being the youngest. I was the youngest head coach in the state of Tennessee back in 2001, I guess it was, 24 years ago. It was a long time ago. And then from that point on, being a head coach for a number of years, and for 3 or 4 seasons, I was a head coach of 4 high school sports at one time, which was very difficult. 2 high school sports and 2 middle school sports, with middle school basketball, boys and girls. And that was very difficult, trying to manage all that and be a husband and, teach our adult Sunday school class at church. It was just a lot to take on. But I've always had this for many years, I've had this feeling that I've had to have it all figured out. I had to know every answer before the question was asked. And God blessed in many, at many points, and was able to, produce a lot of the answers. Sometimes I feel like it was by the seat of my pants, but was able to produce those answers. But then there's also been many times that I didn't have those answers. And I enjoy being able to read someone like Solomon, who was the wisest man to have ever lived. And he still didn't have it all figured out. He still struggled with things, especially dealing with the things of God. And I think that's where Solomon starts making his distinction in this chapter. Really, in these verses that we're reading, he starts making a distinction, because it's one thing to be a wise person when it comes to working with your hands, building a house, knowing every step, knowing it before it happens. I mean, you could build a house, without much trouble, not really thinking about it. Then there's others who can, manage an office and not really have to, stress themselves that much, because it's something they've done. It's a second nature to them, or whatever it might be. Some people are just natural mothers. I mean, just being a mother comes easy to them. Or, a father, or, some pastors, it just comes easy to them. But then there's some of us that, we have to work and struggle to get to figure it out. There are some mothers, I'm sure, out there that can, raise their hand and say, I felt like I was failing every single day. I feel a lot of times as a husband and a father that I fail more than I succeed at it. And I guess the drive and determination inside me, is what keeps me going a lot of the times, the same as everybody else. Because it would be easy to give up whenever, things just aren't going the way you thought they would go. But I'm glad I can read of somebody else who had some of those same struggles and having to figure things out. Solomon was very good in the ways of the world. He was obviously a very wise businessman. He was very good financially. He was very good with people skills. But when it came to the things of God, he for some reason, he didn't have it. He didn't know it, or maybe didn't want to know it. And he's finally saying in the 3 verses we're going to be dealing with tonight, he's finally, kind of backing up and kind of punting and saying, you know what? When the rains are full, or when the clouds are full, it's going to rain. And ain't nothing I can do about it. When the tree falls, it's going to, wherever it lays, that's where it's going to fall. I can't go back, stand it up, make it fall a different direction. So I need to just quit worrying about those things. And it's almost like you can read the relief in his voice that he's finally letting go of just trying to control everything. And that is the case for a lot of us. I see Solomon as a very type A personality. That's me, very, very type A. It's just being in charge, making the decisions, having, all the pressure on me. I don't mind it. I enjoy the pressure. I enjoy thriving under it, figuring things out, figuring out problems. I enjoy those things. But at times it does. I mean, it can drive you crazy, because when you can't figure out the answer to a problem. I remember I was working on a bathtub. I had a remodeling business. For anybody who doesn't know that, I had a remodeling business for many years, and I still kind of, I guess, moonlight as a remodeler from time to time. Whenever I have a project somebody calls me about that I want to help them out with, or need a little extra money or whatever it is. But I was working on a bathtub, and they had antique faucet set for their tub, gooseneck, nice gooseneck faucet and all that. But they wanted to change it out. They wanted to update it, but they wanted to keep the Delta valve that was underneath the tub. And they weren't taking the tub out nor the tub surround out. I just did the tile work around the tub. So after doing the tile work around the tub, and we discussed the faucet and the valve and all those things, and they had somebody from some plumbing store here in our local area, big fancy plumbing store, come out, look at everything. Oh yeah, this is what you need. Here's the faucet set. Here's the new gooseneck. Here's the new handles. It'll match perfectly with this Delta that you've already got. And the other problem was the access panel, for whatever reason, when it was built, was not made where the faucet was, or the faucet wasn't put where the access panel was. It was the only location you could have the access panel by the layout, but the faucet was on the other side, so it was really a pointless access panel. And so I was doing the tile work, and I made sure I checked all the boxes with everything, called the plumbing company and talked to their dealer, and everything was good to go. So I did all the tile work, and the last thing I'm going to do is put the faucet, the handles, and the gooseneck on, and lo and behold, it does not work. It doesn't fit. So now the plumbing company just gives one of those like, well, we thought it would. We gave it our best shot. Now it's on me to figure it out. It didn't have to be, but I took that responsibility to figure it out, even though I didn't choose the stuff. I didn't look at the stuff. I was just doing the tile work and then putting the stuff on. Anyway, I sat there one day, a full day. And when I would work in the summer, I would work 16 hours a day. I sat there nearly a full day. I went and bought all the parts I could find, the random parts and things I could find, and sat there a full day, knowing I wasn't going to charge the homeowner for my time to sit there to figure this out. But rather than tearing all that tile work back off, which would have cost them more money, I gave them my time and sat there until I finally figured out a way to bypass the valve and to put a temporary hose inside the gooseneck. It was a whole ordeal, but I was able to figure that out. And that's one of those things in life that was very difficult. I had another one time working on a cabinet that was well over 100 years old, and was able to restore that cabinet and actually take it from a small piece of furniture to a 8-foot wide desk, buffet kind of desk that they wanted with a hutch on top. And the cabinet was part of the hutch. Man, I worked on that for months. I like being able to figure things out like that. But turning loose of the reins sometimes and saying, God, this is in your hands. I can't do a thing about it. If it's going to rain, I can't do a thing about it. If the tree's going to fall, I can't do a thing about it. And the worst thing I can do, what he says in verse number 4, he says, the worst thing I could do is to observe the wind and then try to make a decision based off the information I can gather. Yes, we need to be prudent. Yes, we need to use some godly wisdom and past knowledge and things that God blesses us with. But if we constantly sit around and try to figure out the end before we start, we'll never start. Because there's times when we are not going to know the end. That's what he's saying. If the farmer that observes the wind every day will walk out, no, it looks like it might rain today. I better not, sow the seed today. It looks like the wind's going to be blowing. I better not cast the seed today. The wind might blow it away. Well, it looks like it's going to be hot today. I better not cast the seed today because it's going to be hot. And you can sit and figure all these things until you just will figure yourself into a worried mess, or what I call paralysis by analysis. You'll figure yourself into that point, and you won't accomplish anything. And that is very difficult at times for definitely for a person like me to just turn loose and say, God, I'm going to do it and I trust you. If I step into an elevator shaft, I'm going to trust you. If I walk off the edge of the cliff, I'm going to trust you. I remember reading a story about a missionary. He was in a little village. I cannot remember where he was at. I was trying to remember that earlier today. But he was in a little village, and there was it was a rickety, the way he described it was a rickety suspension bridge. And the fog had set in so heavy, and he couldn't see anything. And all he could hear was somebody on the other side telling him to follow their voice. And he said, I stepped out on that bridge. I had no idea if the bridge was in good shape. From what I could see, it didn't look like it was in good shape. But I heard that voice saying, step across the bridge, keep coming, another step. There's some boards out in the middle. Watch out for this. And so he makes his way. He goes through a big dramatic story of it, but for time's sake, he makes his way across to the other side where one of the local villagers was there that knew he was coming and could hear that he was over there on the other side. That's what it's like for us sometimes when we're trying to follow God. We don't know where we're stepping. God, if I'm going to be on a rickety suspension bridge, I'm going to let you have control of it. I'm going to let you got to tell me. Just tell me to step and I'm going to step. Tell me to wait and I'm going to wait. And, sometimes we have to trust God that way and not try to figure out everything. And I'm terrible about that. I'm terrible about trying to figure out everything before it happens. But I like reading this about Solomon. I like seeing this side of him. I like seeing his mind working because definitely not putting myself in his category of wisdom or anything like that, but my mind works in the same way that we're trying to figure it all out. I'm very thankful that I never got to the point where I turned to the world to try to fill a void that I couldn't figure out how to fill. I'm glad I had parents who kept me in church, and I was always able to fill those spaces in my heart and my soul and my mind with good things, with things of the Lord. And when things got hard, I knew where to turn. And I've had some hard things happen in life. We all have, and things I don't care to talk about. Things I don't really want to bring up. But I assure you, there's been some very hard times in life. But I'm thankful that I never ran away from God as Solomon did, looking to the world to fill those voids. That's one thing I'm glad about. That comes from good parents, good church around me, good leadership, and a good Lord that's walking with me every step of the way. And I can honestly say that He is my shepherd, and He's always done exactly what He said He would do for me, and I appreciate that. And then in verse number 5 it says, "And thou knowest not what is the way of the Spirit, nor how the bones do grow in the womb of her that is with child. Even so, thou knowest not the works of the God who maketh all." I love that last little phrase, "who maketh all," not, who maketh these things, not who causes it to rain, but just He makes all of it. He makes the clouds full with water. He makes the trees. He makes them fall. He forms the child in the womb. He does all of it. And we'll never know His ways. The Bible tells us we're not going to know His ways. His ways are higher than ours. His thoughts are greater than our thoughts. And but I like that. We're going to be looking at some different passages tonight. We're going to be going over to what Paul said, and I think it's Philippians 3. I've got on my notes. I think it's Philippians 3 when he tells us to not look at the things behind us, but look out in front of us and press towards the mark that's out there. Because if we keep looking back and keep worrying about, this thing happened so long ago and it's kept me down all these years. This has been my Achilles heel. I hate to get, I'm not trying to get political, but there's so many people who use idiotic, I'll say that, foolish, that's a biblical word, foolish excuses for poor performance or problems or issues of the day. My connection is telling me something. I hope I'm still there. I don't know if I am or not, but we'll see. But anyway, people will use excuses from past or something that will that prevents them from going further in the future. And I was listening to Karine, I think is it Karine Jean-Pierre, the former press secretary for the White House under the last administration. She's written a book, and she's going on this big book tour. And so the other day, they were asking her questions about all of that. And she said, they said, well, why don't you do, why this or why this other thing? And her excuse for that was because I'm a black woman of the LGBTQ community. That's why. That's mind-boggling. What is that? Why should I mean, for years I was an overweight person, but that didn't stop me from playing baseball, or I've got asthma. That didn't stop me from running all those sprints during the summers and all those things. I mean, not saying I didn't have other excuses, and I used many excuses throughout my life, and I'm not saying I never use those things, but we've all got them. We've all got excuses of why we can't do one thing or another. But we placate to those things, and we look back to it and say, well, if that hadn't happened all those years ago, then I would do this. If I hadn't got hurt in church back there, I would still go to church today. And it's just these excuses that we keep hanging on to in the past, or we keep trying to figure all this out and correcting what happened back there when it rained or when the tree fell, and we can't do nothing about that. We might as well go forward. And Paul said, quit worrying about those things that are behind you, whether it was sin or whether it was an issue or a problem or an illness or an ailment or a financial hardship, whatever it was that was back there, leave it back there, and let's go forward. And anyway, I'm probably just getting to where I'm rambling now, but that's what we're going to be dealing with tonight, so I'm looking forward to it. And it's about 15 till 7, so I'm going to head over, and so we can have our Bible study class, our adult Bible study class. Looking forward to it tonight, and we're going to be praying for you. We hope that you're praying for us, and until we meet again for our next pre-flection, I guess it is, I will see you then.